This is Jonathan Ferguson, Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And I'm your host, Dave Jewett, and today, for the game's big Season 4 update, we're taking a look at some of the weapons from Arena Breakout Infinite. By default, if you just get a P90, you're stuck using the very simple backup irons that are on that mount.
Oh.
It comes with a very basic set that are offset to the left.
Oh my god. Right, I'm going to be honest here. I didn't realise those were there. Apart from cursed builds, this might be the only firearm I've ever seen with 3 sets of iron sights, plus the optic. And if I wanted to get cursed about it, I could put some backup irons on the rail. So we have 4 sets of iron sights, all usable. In fact, we could then put canted ones. What have you done to me?
This episode is brought to you by Morefun Studios for Arena Breakout Infinite Season 4 Update Airport Hunt. This update is live right now and comes with a new variant of Northridge. This frozen landscape of Snowy Northridge brings a new frosty atmosphere to the game and even allows keen-eyed players to track their foes using footprints left in snow. There is also a new map, the Guoyapos Airport. This is the game's first cooperative extraction map, allowing opposing teams to extract together. And there are also new weapons, such as the T191 and the AMB-17, which we'll be taking a look at in today's episode. Use the link in the description or the pinned comment below to play Arena Breakout Infinite for free right now and check out this new update. Thank you again to Morefun Studios for sponsoring this episode, and now we'll get into the video.
Well, I'm going to pause immediately. The gun I'm looking at is this one. And, well, the Automat Nikonova, or AN-94. Pretty legendary. It did enter service. It was being rolled out. I guess it would have been round about the turn of the millennium. It would have become, full rate production, replacing AK-74s, but didn't happen. There just wasn't really a niche for this thing for that 1,800 rounds per minute hyperburst style burst. 2 rounds. The long story short is it does what it does very well, but what it does isn't worth doing. So that's increased hit probability and increased lethality from landing 2 rounds on a center mass, ideally, is the goal out to sort of standard. Assault rifle engagement range is 300 meters. Does that well, but it's excessively complicated, excessively expensive, well, it might not have been had it gone to full rate production, but still. When you have 7 million AK-74s in a warehouse, or series of warehouses, you probably don't need this thing that gives you a slight advantage and really is just automating training. You can train soldiers to shoot better. One of the ways in which you achieve that, and this does have it as well, is the ability to mount an optical sight. And that, funnily enough, is what I fixated on when this thing popped up on my screen. The mounting portion of the receiver for the classic former Soviet and then Russian style of mounting an optic over the top of the gun. Because the AK series had been designed before such things were a requirement. They added a side rail to the receiver on those weapons, initially for night sights and then for other optics. And now they have railed uppers, or railed dust covers. The Nikonov came in a bit too early for that, so they stuck with the side rail. I picked out that area of the gun because it didn't look quite right to me, but actually looking at it face to face, as it were, in the flesh, in the polymer and steel, it's actually pretty bang on. I think it's mainly the lighting, or just possibly this platform here that supports the side rail. So it's steel inserts molded into polymer. The platform that it sits on is, I think, shallower on the real thing. I can't criticize basically anyone for not getting every tiny detail of the AN-94 right, because we may have 4 of them. They're very hard to get your hands on if you're not near us. The overall impression, very good. We've seen some legally different ANs in certain franchises, and this is not that. This is a faithful reproduction. You've got the 2 diameter barrel there. The rail that the barrel runs on, because this is a barreled action reciprocating in a chassis, essentially. Muzzle device looks good as well. You can see the circular welds there. So this is machined, milled out, and then plates are welded in to seal it back up to create this whirling pair of expansion chambers that give it the back pressure to function correctly. Now, if you're thinking that gun is wonky, well, you're right, but it isn't the game that's got that. that's made it look that way. It's Mr. Nikonov and his team. Magazine thoroughly offset to the side, and that is to avoid all of the gubbins on the inside. So it uses a sort of secondary faux bolt, a shuttle or carrier, that when the action comes to the rear goes forward and it queues up a second cartridge. That's how you get that very high rate of fire. There's one waiting to get pushed into the chamber as soon as the first one comes out. So it fires the first shot, fires the second shot before it ever hits the back of the receiver. Makes the recoil very controllable, puts those 2 rounds where they need to be. Now that's automatic rate of fire seemed correct, and that burst is great. Sounds good. Almost sounds like an echoing single shot. It's when it's that high a rate.
So I'm not usually the biggest fan of burst fire weapons in games, but the way it's implemented, the way the AN-94 is implemented in Arena Breakout Infinite is really good. Like the fully automatic starts with that 2-round burst and then slows down into the chug of the standard automatic,
Which is correct.
And in gameplay, that's really helpful because you could either like tap fire and get a few bursts out, or if you need to sort of put down some sustained fire, you've got both options. I was surprised with how effective it was, and it sort of became one of my favorite rifles to use.
Yeah, the way this works, the first 2 of any automatic string of fire, I won't say burst because that confuses things, but is that high rate. Due to the way the sear and the trigger mechanism interact, that's just how it works. So you can leave it on auto and get your 2-round burst, increased chance of hitting and increased lethality, and then it drops down by default into the 600-ish rounds per minute rate of fire. Now this setup with the optics, so you will find pictures of these with optics mounted. They were designed to have optics fitted. You'll even find an experimental version with a railed upper, or railed top cover, essentially. So we have got a suppressor and an optic on here. There's a laser module on the side. Now there you would struggle, except that you could drill and fit a bit of Picatinny onto this. There should be enough thickness in there from memory to mount something securely enough, even though it's not designed to take it.
That 2-round burst was really helpful at longer ranges as well, to just land 2 shots really quickly and then fall back into cover.
Yeah, in theory, this is why I've heard you say that you don't like burst before, and I don't like it much in real life, and I often don't like it in games, but really high rates, like different implementations of the AN or guns that are pretending to be ANs, I usually quite like, because what annoys me more than anything in an FPS is when I feel like there's a bullet sponge situation going on. So I think that's why I sometimes like to play with DMRs or with burst fire weapons with a very high rate, because you're getting more bang for your buck, as it were. So it's good to know that this version of the AN meets with your requirements.
I think this is my favourite, at least in terms of gameplay, my favourite implementation of the AN-94 so far.
I think it might be mine, from what I've seen. You did give me a heads up on the weapons that you suspect I might need to get, and on the list this time was a Bren 807, and my first reaction was, oh, it's a shame. We have some CZ Bren rifles. We don't have an 807. And then I thought, hang on, what is an 807? And now I've got it in front of me. We sort of do. So this is a Bren 2MS in 7.62x39, which, as you can tell from the classic banana mag arrangement, is indeed in 7.62x39. Does not accept AK magazines. It is much more of an AR-15 or similar straight in design, but it has the curvature of the 7.62x39 because that's what you need. Otherwise, it's going to be like a traffic jam of cartridges. But you can see the low receiver is the same design. It's weird. This might be the first time I've compared a different variant of something from a game rather than photos or the real thing. So I can't be 100. This is assuming that these guys have this right. But from a very quick check as well, I believe it's an export, slightly cheaper version of the Bren 2. I think it may even have come first, but it's 7.62x39. Our Bren 2 in 7.62x39 has the shorter barrel on it. But really, it's very, very similar. It's mainly the handguard setup that differs. You can see there. This just has an M-lock slot either side. It's kind of... Maybe it's better to describe the 807 as a hybrid between the original Bren 805 and the Bren 2 series, because it has the Bren 2 lower and buttstock, but the upper is not the same. You can see there, this Bren 2 version has the QD sling, quick detach sling mounts there. The machining of the upper is quite different. The shape of the slot of the cocking handle is also different. And we have a different gas block as well. So, as sometimes happens, I have learned something from a game, and I'm going to go away and disentangle this and figure out exactly what the 807 represents. Some of you may already know and are probably typing furiously into the comment section already. But yeah, we have something close. I feel like you're going to make this worse.
I just wanted to show you some of the inner gubbins.
Oh, okay. That's fine. No, that's good. That's some extensively modelled internals there.
You get scared every time I show you a gunsmith now.
This is cursed, though. This is being cursed by not having enough on the gun. No sights on the gun.
Hey,
I see. I see where this has gone. I should have known.
There's your sights.
That doesn't help. Yeah.
The front sight is just a thumbs up. You can't really see it because it's right at the
I'm
front.
glad it's a thumb, is what I'll say, because I thought it might be something else. Last time I commented on weird sights, so someone said, "Oh yeah, that's a real design that someone put out on 3D, from the 3D printing world." So I don't recognise that particular pattern of sight, but I'm sure it's a copy of a real one.
You know, I enjoy transparent magazines, but even more so when they have utility, because a big part of extraction shooters and this game is ammo management. And because you don't have a ammo counter on your HUD, you have to check your magazine. But if it's transparent, instead of taking the magazine out, checking it, you leave the magazine in the weapon, you just give it a quick glance, and you know how many rounds you've got left.
Very practical. Yeah, so another difference probably between this and the Bren 2 and the 807 is the rail. So you'll see a bit of a trend in modern Russian firearms design is to just have the edges of the Picatinny rail and they cut out the middle. The Bren 2 doesn't do that. It relieves metal, it cuts metal away in a semicircular shape, but it leaves much more of the actual rail stop there. It's not just a bit either side, it's continuous, but they are relieving a bit of weight there, interestingly. Now, from memory, the 805 Bren does have a full cutout between down the middle of the rail, so I'm sure that's accurate to the 807. So think of it like as a transitional design between the 805 and the Bren 2. Oh, look at that. So inadvertent partridge again there.
It's some of a P90.
We've gone straight in on the guts of the P90. Very interesting. Looks accurate to me. You can see that very weird flat faceted bolt with the dual guide rod spring and the trigger mechanism pack at the bottom behind it. You'd be pretty hard pressed to identify that as P90, except perhaps for the cocking handle ears at the front there. Here's one. Quite an easy field strip on this. There's your barrel group. And we should then be able to slide out the bits. Okay, so there we go. So there's the bit at the back. Something like that. I won't bother to remove the cocking handles off the upper and put them in place as well, but I could absolutely reproduce what they have there. There is... Oh yeah. So the other bit I can't readily show you without taking too long is the trigger assembly. So cocking handle assembly and trigger assembly are also in view here when we just remove the receivers from view. But these are the working parts and the trigger mechanism. And you can see in there, well, first of all, you can see where the trigger bar interfaces into this notch on the trigger mechanism. And it's the bar, or rod really, pushing back on that frees up the, it's the auto sear there. Frees up the hammer to fly forward. So that's the hammer in its striking position. If I had to criticize, I would say that trigger pack on the screen looks metal and it's very deep compared to this. This is quite shallow, quite short. So I'm not sure the internals are quite accurate, but the very fact that I can identify all the components is really quite impressive. And this is really just a lightweight plastic molding. Nice to see all those innards. Now this iconic, but very tall. I won't say carry handle because it isn't a carry handle, but the sight mount / upper receiver, because it's an integral part of the upper receiver. Very distinctive.
By default, if you just get a P90 in the game, just a base P90, you're stuck using the very simple backup irons that are on that mount.
Oh.
It comes with a very basic set that are offset to the left.
Oh my god. Right, I'm going to be honest here. I didn't realise those were there. Quite embarrassing. But I'll tell you why. The main reason I didn't notice is that ours have... Oh no, sorry. We have two with the ring sight set into the sight protectors, as was intended by the god of FN originally. And then we have these with the Picatinny mount block set in there. But this tower arrangement here hasn't changed. And unbelievably, that twin set of iron sights, because there is one either side, it's just that by default, if you're right-handed, your best side to use is the left side. Those were always there, and I never noticed. Deeply embarrassing. Anyway, sorry, I didn't finish that thought, did I? So in the middle of that block is another set of iron sights. So that hole there lines up with that front sight post there. So when I think of iron sights on a P90, I think of that. That's actually really remarkable. Now, if you were left-handed, of course, you would swap and sight using the set of iron sights on the right-hand side. So this might be apart from cursed builds, this might be the only firearm I've ever seen with 3 sets of iron sights plus the optic. And if I wanted to get cursed about it, I could put some backup irons on the rail. So we have 4 sets of iron sights, all usable. In fact, we could then put canted ones. What have you done to me?
I wouldn't do anything like that. That doesn't sound like me at all.
No, but you're making me think like this. That's what I'm complaining about. They're not very commonly seen, but I do believe there is a desert tan receiver for the P90. You could really do some cyberpunk inspired stuff with a, I don't know, red receiver, or maybe red and black, upper and lower, I don't know. Again, why am I coming up with silly ideas? Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, this is really cool. You'd always need to repack your magazines. The game encourages you to take spare ammo to repack your mags. But in the recent update, they've added an animation for every single magazine, a unique animation to repack them properly. Previously, it just used to be an icon on your HUD. But now, you'll bring up a magazine and put every new round in.
So I don't have any inert. In fact, I don't think I'm not sure we have any inert P90 rounds. We do have some P90 rounds though. So shooting video is not out of the question. Yep, exactly as you saw there with the animation. You thumb in around there, just like you do in a normal magazine, and that platform there, as you press it, rotates and aligns the cartridges as they need to be aligned. Or other way around, I guess. That follower rotates and presents the rounds in line with the breech, but they're fed in, obviously, horizontally. So a rotating platform, which is why this is rounded and why that moves. And I'm paused on a very, I feel like I'm rubbing this in to myself here now, very in-your-face view of the 2 sets of iron sights that I somehow neglected for 16 years since I first picked up a P90. They do work quite well, I think. I haven't shot with them because I didn't know they were there. I've put 100 rounds through a P90 in one session, and I didn't realise it had iron sights. I think because it was one of these, but anyway.
Every day's a school day.
Yeah. It's a very natural position, actually. You put your cheek on the stock, instantly really quite a good sight picture, albeit your sight radius is very short, so it's not ideal. Oh, what was I saying about multiple sights? With the bunny ears.
Well, yeah, I was trying to make the most out of the game's customization options.
Games like this are an absolute gift to you, aren't they?
Oh yeah, big time. Also, in the 3D view, you accidentally blind yourself with the laser modules.
Yeah, bunny ears, red dots, and a pair of what are they? I'm not sure what laser modules those are. Is that a PEC 15? Yeah, it's funny. If people who haven't handled a P90, they're weird, but they're kind of ergonomically good in a way. The problem I've always had with them is the thumb against finger problem. Like, I don't like this. Like, I'm fouling my own thumb trying to get my trigger finger on the trigger. Can't be ideal. And I can't think my thumb's that big. You don't get better compact firepower, really. I don't normally direct people to Wikipedia, and I haven't fact-checked every single user entry on there, but it's surprising how many people actually are using the P90 in real life. Seems like a meme gun, isn't. And that's a really good one. bringing it back to the game. Minor point there, and this is going to be a gameplay compromise, I think, but the click of pulling the trigger, some triggers will have a, like if it's if there's a semi-auto disconnector in there, you'll get a click. That's where the kind of Hollywood trope of the dead man's click, that's signaling to the audience that it's empty. This weapon should not be clicking. This is a relatively simple trigger mechanism on a bolt-action rifle at the M24 here. That's not gonna make an appreciable clicking sound. Just something that popped out to me. I like the finish on this. This is black polymer stock with some kind of Krylon paint or something on there, and it's rubbed away on the high points. It's rubbed away where it would rub away. It's not just like random bits missing like we sometimes see. And iron sights, depending on the vintage and, well, I guess the type as well. A sniper rifle or a hunting rifle being used as a sniper rifle. This is a military sniper rifle, bolt action. May or may not have iron sights. This does. The L96 does. Problem for your game design if the gun you're modeling doesn't have iron sights, but you want that to be the base condition of it. Or I guess for a game like this, you could just go, tough, deal with it. You don't have an optic, you don't have any sights, where you have to bodge something onto it or something. So if anyone's thinking this is a Remington 700, you're right, but it's the American M24, American military, US Army M24 variant to a specific specification. The sniper weapons system, 1980. It's contemporary with the L96-ish. I guess it's been safe to say retained and upgraded, where the L96 was basically kept stock and then replaced by another AI rifle entirely later on. There's nothing inherently wrong with this at all. Proven system. In this day and age, you want it in a modern, adjustable, configurable, lightweight chassis rather than a single piece stock. It's a bit of a go-to, or, well, I don't know how common it is technically, but a scoped 700 is almost a given in any game that lets you shoot out to distance, really. Is there any opportunity to use mil dots, range estimation, anything like that, or are we just doing it based on experience and estimation?
You can sort of mark your targets and zero accordingly. There is a mechanic to adjust your zero distance. So if you know an enemy is 150, 200 meters away, you can adjust accordingly. I always sort of just aim up a little bit and hope for the best.
Yeah, I do feel like, I think I've said this before, but sniper rifles in modern military shooters feel a bit like they're stuck in the 50s or 60s or something, and they're not, like, with the exception of, I guess, dedicated games that try to make you feel like a sniper, and even then, I think because the actual skill of sniping with your dope and all your adjustments and very slow gameplay of crawling through grass and everything doesn't excite too many people, so we end up that kind of guesstimation approach ends up, even if the capability is there to use more realistic approaches, the temptation to just wing it is always going to be there. And at the distances you end up, the realistic distances, equivalent distances you end up sniping at in games like this really isn't that far, and you can kind of wing it.
Did you catch that shot bouncing off the guy's head?
Oh,
I think as I hit on the edge of the helmet, helmets have a chance to ricochet a shot. And I was like, you cheeky, lucky... Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah, interesting. So now the big spark, this is a gameplay concession. Yes, some bullets have steel cores, and a steel core hitting a steel helmet might spark. Typically, bullets are constructed from lead, copper, maybe a ballistic tip or something. Materials that won't spark against steel. But if it didn't, you wouldn't know what had happened unless some text flashed up, which is even more immersion breaking. So I understand why they've done that. And the chance of a steel helmet or a ballistic nylon or a Kevlar helmet, I guess the chance with a steel helmet should be greater of a deflection of a bullet that by right should go straight through and kill you. It is possible. They're not rated typically for rifle rounds, but again, as a sort of realistic feeling gameplay mechanic, that's something a bit different, albeit very frustrating for you as the shooter.
This isn't specific to the M24, but it's definitely something I noticed while using weapons like bolt-action rifles. But the way they've implemented sidearms is really good. It leans into your pistol being a sidearm. Instead of, switching to a pistol, putting one weapon away, bringing out a sidearm, you bring your rifle close to your chest with your left hand and one hand your pistol, so you can quickly bring it out and engage the enemy if you need your backup weapon, and it's only if you double tap the sidearm button you'll bring it out with 2 hands. So you see me there.
Excellent.
Just quickly, I need my pistol fast. I'm able to just withdraw it from my holster and use it one-handed to take down the enemy who was a bit too close for my bolt-action rifle. And I just thought that was a really nice, fluid way to use a pistol and include a sidearm as part of your loadout, because otherwise they feel a bit pointless. You're wasting time putting a bolt action away to bring your pistol out in a lot of games, whereas doing it this way around, you've got the best of both worlds, just switching quickly. It felt really nice.
I'm trying to think if I've seen that before. Makes a lot of sense. It's if you've watched trained individuals shooting with long gun and pistol, that's a real technique. The more progress we make on video gaming, the more some of the older stuff feels a bit like watching a series of animations, and we're getting more variety and more control over stuff, which is always good, including things like inspection animations, so it feels a bit more real in the world. And a Mark 14, the much maligned M14, much maligned now. People used to love the M14, but the last sort of 5-10 years has been nothing but criticism of how terrible the M14 was, and it was only in service for 7 years in the front line, and a bit of revisionist history going on there, albeit with some validity to it. It was play it safe design, and they had serious manufacturing problems. They couldn't make enough in time, essentially, for it to be a success, and they ended up with the option to pivot to the M16, realised that it would work for outside the jungle, and the rest is history. M14 gets withdrawn, but there are still tons of them in storage. They bring them out multiple times and rebuild them as designated marksman rifle. It might even be the archetypal designated marksman rifle, at least for a generation that served or even just observed through the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. This feels like a go-to. It's made iconic in games as well. Now, I saw you firing automatic there.
Yeah, you have the option of automatic and semi.
Yeah, I don't think you would. Originally, I believe it was a fully automatic design, and everyone was supposed to have the ability. And at some point, the switches were not issued for most users. So the typical rifleman, his is essentially locked to semi-automatic. The plan then was that you'd have a designated automatic rifleman, and his weapon would have the switch, and you could go to full auto on that one. So they are out there with auto switches, but the ones rebuilt into designated marksman rifles ought not to have them, as far as I know. Maybe some were retained or put back on for if you're kicking indoors in Afghanistan or something and you need to switch to rock and roll. Maybe I could see the utility of that, but it kind of jars. If you're just thinking it from a gaming perspective, an accurate rifle, a sniper rifle, if you like, DMR, that's automatic just feels a bit wrong. I do like the way the weapon's moving in automatic. You do get the sense that the user's struggling to control it, which you would.
Which I was.
Which you were.
Even in the virtual sense, it was all over the place.
It's this kind of movement and the amount of vibration sort of blurring your vision a bit. That's realistic as well. Because when the M14 was designed with an automatic feature built in, this is the era of the waist position, the assault position, looking over the gun as you kick in a door or jump into a trench or something, and you're firing bursts from the basically hip firing is what we've come to call it. Highly unlikely you'd be firing from the shoulder. The Soviets trained to do that. That's why they went for a reduced power cartridge. Something to be said, I think, for a DMR with a magnifier and red dots. Various options for this sort of medium range weapon. LPVO would be obviously another one. Traditional tube type scope of a given magnification. Just a red dot, again, doesn't feel right. You can't really be the designated marksman if you don't have magnification on the optic. Well, you can. You'll be less effective.
The manipulation of the sight's really nice as well. I feel like there's been a number of games that have included a red dot with a magnifier and they've just sort of magically come into view and out again. Actually seeing your character's hand go up and manipulate the optics really nice.
Definitely. Yeah, I want to see hands operating stuff. I don't want them to just appear. Good ricochet sound there. And a good suppressed sound as well. Still got some punch. You're still shooting 7.62, of course, but it's definitely got that sort of attenuated. Pop would be the wrong word. Our old friend, USAS or USAS 12, happen to have one here. Thinking of things I've criticised in the past, sights sticking up outside their sight protectors is a bit of a bugbear of mine. And you can see that the actual aperture, which, yes, is not as big as the one in the game because of reasons we've talked about before, where you do need a field of view through your iron sight. Although It's quite big, just not as big as on the game. But you can see quite clearly, this sucker is sticking up well clear of the sight protectors, which has been a mistake previously on things like AR-15s in games. It's not a mistake. This is correct, albeit they have 2 apertures. Now, there may be an option for on the USAS for 2 apertures. It would make sense to me if there was, although, thinking about it, it wouldn't line up to be useful as an aperture. So the second aperture that's drilled into the sight, the bit of the sight of the L shape that is sitting flat in the sight protectors there, the carry handle, possible that shouldn't be drilled. That should be solid. It's solid on ours. But you flip that up and you get your aperture sticking up. And that's because the carry handle, although it's enormous, doesn't sit in line with fully in line with the front sight. So you need your actual sight leaf sticking up proud. Interesting. So that's correct. I think they've done a good job with the very rough cast texture. Almost like an orange peel texture on the real Daewoo. Might be the first time I've seen that done correctly. Don't quote me. Just looking at the silhouettes there. It's a gun only a mother could love, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's an unhappy silhouette.
Yeah.
And another one where you'd be forgiven for looking at the game version going, oh dear, they haven't done a good job there. They have. Because look at this thing. So when you look at that buttstock setup, that might be a little too humped there. On this one, that's machined flat. So on the 2 we've got anyway, that is a little happier looking. It doesn't look quite so bent. Overall, that profile is accurate.
It's so massive, it's muffling your voice when you go behind it.
You got the giant screws that hold the trigger frame on there. They always make me chuckle, having had to clean one of these things a couple of times. Yeah, it's pretty close. The way the carry handle just sort of stops short of the receiver, like it's given up on life when it feels like it should go further forward. They might have made it excessively ugly. Like, see here where there's a flat there and there's a flat there. On our guns, those are machined flat. They've left them proud. And that makes me wonder if there are some real ones out there that also stick up like that and make the whole thing look worse. Quite a lot of recoil there in your first-person view.
Yeah, this thing did kick quite a bit, even more so when I was setting it to automatic and putting a drum mag on it.
So what you're seeing there with the reload, it's always good, I can revise this stuff with the real thing, is pulling back the cocking handle to this position, popping it into the handguard so it's locked open, changing the magazine, and then pulling it out of its socket and letting that fly forward. And I think that's the correct drill, because you want the full travel to get these honking great cartridges chambered correctly. All of this stuff here, I don't know if there's a rail adapter for the handle. I'd be surprised if there wasn't, actually. Someone must have machined one up. The aftermarket cocking handle, I'd be kind of amazed if there's one with great big grippy textures on it, but maybe. A rail on the bottom of the handguard, I guess you could put one on there. It's a little over-modified for me. But hey, if someone out there is running practical shotgun courses with a tricked out USAS 12, A, I want to know about it, and B, I want to see the footage.
Just for your context, by the way, the unmodified version I'm using buckshot, and then the modified version I've put slugs in.
Right. Is that a modified cocking handle on this one? Am I dreaming, or is that the standard cocking handle?
That's the standard cocking handle. The one without the optic, that's the standard cocking handle.
Yeah. Maybe it's the field of view thing, but this cocking handle is huge. It's a great big cylindrical thing. For proportions of the sort of aftermarket one are correct. The one I'm seeing on the stock gun looks really skinny compared to this. And I don't know if it would actually lock in to that recess there successfully.
One thing you might have been able to notice when I was letting loose with the drum magazine is my character wasn't wearing headphones or ear pro. So after sustained fire, my hearing was becoming damaged. I was getting a ringing in my ears, which would actually affect you for a little while if you were trying to hear the smaller sounds of someone sneaking through a bush, and you've just got a ringing in your ear now because you've just let loose with far too many rounds in close quarters. So always wear your ear pro.
Definitely. And make sure it's correctly worn as well. I still have a bit of tinnitus in my right ear from early days as a tourist shooting with very poor hearing protection.
Yeah, this is one of the new weapons added in Season 4. Integrally suppressed.
Yes. AMB, I think, is specifically the SD type variant. Weirdly, this thing has come about essentially an AKS-74U replacement, even though it seems like a much more modern potential platform for longer barrel lengths. Replace the whole Kalashnikov family with this thing. That's not the way it's gone. It's replacing short barrel weapons in specific units, as far as I know.
So I read that it was replacing the Val and the VSS Ventores because it used the same cartridge.
So the SD version is in 9x39, so 39mm long cartridge case like the 7.62x39, but necked out to 9mm and with a variety of spicy bullets, including armor piercing. So yes, this would replace any AKS-74U still hanging around, although they are more of a vehicle crew weapon in theory than special operations forces, and as you say, those specialist 1980s 90s vintage close range suppressed weapons. But what it isn't doing is replacing the AK-74 or the AK-12 for that matter. They're sticking with that traditional Kalashnikov architecture. So I don't have one to show you, least of all the integrally suppressed version. So this is a design that appeared in the 90s, if I remember correctly, went away and was sort of redesigned and resurrected.
I've sped up this gameplay to show you, because I was really impressed with the snow on the weapon. So I sped up that gameplay so you can see the transition of me entering a building with my weapon covered in snow, it melting, drying, and then going back outside and getting covered in snow again.
Yeah, very good.
It's just a visual effect, but tying the weapon into the environment that you're using it just helps that immersion factor, and just it was a really, really nice effect.
Yeah, anything that makes your gun feel like an extension of you and something that exists in the world, to things that virtually exist in the world that you're in, as much as your character's body or at least hands do. The next extension to that might be stuff getting blown or accumulating in the weapon and affecting its reliability. This is an interesting one. So the Chinese QBZ-191, the new service rifle of the PLA, and I guess in theory the whole of the Chinese armed forces, ultimately, it's still replacing the Type 95 or QBZ-95 bullpup. Same cartridge, 5.8 caliber, but you'll notice it has built-in iron sights on the rear. And they claim that that's because removable iron sights can get knocked off. And this, as far as I can tell, this appears to be a faithful representation of it. So it has a 12 o'clock rail, so you can deal with optics fine. Potentially lasers or something could go on the front bit of that, but there are no 3, 9 or 6 o'clock rails on there. It's designed, I think, so that you can add strips. The only variant they talk about that has this M-LOK style, modern, free-floated, aluminium fore-end handguard is actually their designated marksman rifle, where they decided that a free-floated barrel was more important than the advantages in very cold conditions of a freezing cold, sharp bit of metal. I mean, modern M-LOK handguards are not sharp, but they certainly would be cold without gloves. Of course, you are going to issue gloves in cold weather, so it's an interesting choice. If you think bullpups were the future, which is very debatable, then they've gone back from a bullpup to a conventional layout. They've always had quite a traditional gas and working part system in there. The fixed cocking handle on the right-hand side, that's another interesting choice. Justifications for all of these features, I'm not sure all of them will necessarily stand up, but the overall result is something that, if you didn't know about it, you'd think was a Daewoo K2 or something. Now, on the very cool bombing up of the magazines, as they say in the British Army, it's great. Constructive criticism might be, and I know why they've done this, I think, is that the animation for the left thumb is always pushing the round in and back. That's fine. People do that. Because you press the round in and move it to the back, and that way you're sure it's going in correctly. It doesn't quite feel like it's being done with enough authority to the pressing in part, put it that way. So whether it's a single stack magazine or a double stacked single feed, that's even more pressure required actually. So an open top magazine like this, double stack to double feed, you're essentially just popping them into the top, and the stroking of the thumb across the top of the cartridge is kind of redundant. It could be done, like, again, some people will put them in with a bit of space and then seat them to the back to make sure, basically, so you're not putting the rim over the back of the mag and not getting it in. It's a valid technique. The animation doesn't quite ring home with how you would do that with your real fingers and thumbs. But hey, this is the first time I've seen that done, and it's kind of therapeutic to watch.
Really interesting index finger magazine catch as well. I can't recall. I don't think there are any other weapons in the game that have that style of magazine catch.
Yeah, it's not super common in gun world. There is a risk there of a great big wraparound catch like that you could bump it. And I think that might have changed on the current version. The finish is interesting. They have observed that very well because the finish on the 191 is very shiny. It's a sort of proprietary chemical coat. I forget what it actually is. It ends up looking very sort of glossy black, which is an unusual finish to have in this day and age. Hell, black is an unusual finish to have in this day and age. Most designers have decided that a solid black gun sticks out in any environment. So we make it grey, or we make it brown, or part black and part brown. A solid black gun with a polymer handguard and a fixed iron sight in 2025 is kind of surprising.
Thank you all for watching, and thank you Morefun Studios for sponsoring this episode. If you enjoyed, make sure you like the video and subscribe, and be sure to check out the game using our link in the description below or in the pinned comment. Thank you once more for being here and for watching this episode, and we'll see you real soon.